Shane, Shane, Shane. Shane, 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 Shane. A-L-A-N-Allen. A-L-A-N-Allen. Allen, 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 Allen.
Hey, it's the 38th Parallel NFL Week 3 Preview Edition. I am Shane, and with me is Alan Mosley. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. We watched Thursday Night Football last night. I thought the Bills would win by at least 3 touchdowns, and they didn't. So I don't know. I by the way, that didn't save Mike McDaniel's job. Don't get too excited. He's still out. But at least they showed a little fight. So how's that?
Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel will be out by week 6.
Week 6? Okay. We'll write that down. Week 6.
Yeah,
okay.
Week 6. There you go. All right. Let's get right into it with our main topic. Chat, is this real? Now, what this means is we're going to give you I'm going to give you a little headline. Mm-hmm. You go along and tell me if this is real or not. Alan, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a bottom 5 defense.
Pittsburgh Steelers are a bottom. Pittsburgh Steelers? Is that who you said? The Steelers?
Did I stutter?
I'm gonna say that's real. Listen to this right here.
Okay.
The Pittsburgh Steelers actually have the highest paid defensive unit by about $25 million. The Steelers spent a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball. But they gave up 32 points and 31 points the last 2 weeks. It specifically, both of those teams had a 100-yard rusher, which is very un-Steeler-like football.
Yeah.
They can't stop to the run. They also can't get to the quarterback. They're only getting a 1.5 sacks per game. That's 25th best in the NFL. We've talked the last couple of weeks that Mike Tomlin going all in this year, TJ Watt, DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, that it's playoff run or bust for him in his 18th going on 19th season. I think the Steelers are a bottom 5 defense.
Yeah, I mean, all the things you said there really solidify that whole thing. And yeah, like you said, it doesn't sound like Pittsburgh Steelers football to me. Usually when you think of Pittsburgh Steelers football, you think of gonna whoop, gonna beat you down in the trenches, but doesn't sound like it so far. So we'll see what happens later on in the season. The next one that I have, the Indianapolis Colts are a top 5 offense, now going in reverse.
Indianapolis Colts are a top 5 offense. I'm going to call this a strong maybe. All right, listen to this. Okay. They scored on their first 10 possessions of the season. That's 7 last week. All 7 last week, by the way, although that was the Miami Dolphins. The first 3 this week. They're scoring 31 points a game. That's 6.5 yards per play, tied for first top offense statistically in the NFL. QB Daniel Indiana Jones. By the way, we're not doing that. Indianapolis is like going all in on Indiana Jones. It's not happening. Just FYI. He's actually second in the NFL right now at 294 yards a game. Only been sacked twice, but most importantly, no interceptions. And that was with them having the Broncos this past week. Running back Jonathan Taylor, not a huge surprise to see Jonathan Taylor putting up numbers. He's currently the league leader in rushing, 236 yards, and also key stat, no fumbles. The Dolphins suck, right? But the Broncos probably don't. So that's 2 AFC wins. The next 5 weeks for the Steelers. Listen to that. For the Colts at Titans, probably a fairly winnable game. I think we could say.
Yeah.
At Rams, that's a much bigger test, and then they have the Raiders and Cardinals at home, and then at Chargers. This is a team that's already got the AFC South lead, and I mean they could be another 3-1 at worst, in my opinion, going into that at Chargers game. This team might actually run away with the division. I'm going to say yes, top 5 offense.
Yeah, another thing too about them is kind of going along with what we were talking about with their points per game, 6.5 yards per play. They're averaging 445 yards total offense. So that's number one. And that's with Buffalo Bills already having played Thursday night here, week 3. So far, the Colts seem like, they seem they're doing pretty good. I don't know about you. And also, I don't know if you remember this, but I think I was the one that said that the Colts were going to have the number 1 pick in the draft. It's not looking too good.
I'm not going to have the number 1 pick anymore.
I don't think so.
Really get to work if they want to secure that top pick in the draft next year.
Yeah, should probably maybe change my mind on that, but we'll move on from there. The next one, you mentioned them. The Denver Broncos are an undisciplined team under head coach Sean Payton.
I'm going to call this surprisingly yes. Look, Sean Payton, he gets his guy, right? He gets Bo Nix. They move on from the Russell Wilson era, and in Bo Nix's rookie season, they're in the playoffs. That's quick work by Sean Payton. But look, Sean Payton was a highly sought after head coach coming back into the league. The Broncos landed him. But a lot was made of that incident this past week on the sideline between Payton and Bo Nix. Did you see that little scuffle where Sean Payton was kind of grabbing him for the typical, hey, you missed that one, you need to check this, and Bo Nix kind of got back in his face a little bit. There was a lot of boomer tweeting of all the players these days, they're just uncoachable. Yeah. But that is the franchise quarterback you're talking about, so you got to let him work it out. But also, beyond Bo Nix, the Broncos are -3 in turnover margin, which is not indicative of disciplined football. Also, they are one of 10 teams in the NFL with over 120 yards of penalties through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. And that includes, the heartbreaker at the end of the Colts game. They lose the game on a game-losing penalty on Indianapolis's last-second field goal attempt. The attempt goes wide. Denver has won the game, except for unsportsmanlike conduct. They were pushing down on the center. They had called a field goal block that was a little bit unorthodox, and it led to an infraction that gave the Colts a second chance. Of course, what happens? He boots it right through. The Colts are the toast of the league. They've got the top 5 offense, and here we are talking about how the Broncos are an undisciplined team. But it cost them a win.
Do you think it's because Sean Payton just demands a lot from his players, and so if even one little small thing goes wrong, he gets all bent out of shape? I can't believe Bo Nix did this and that. Do you think he's that kind of guy?
Well, look, he's obviously going to be putting a lot on Bo Nix's shoulders because he's the guy. He's not a rookie anymore. This is his second season. Recall a few weeks back, you and I were talking about sophomore slumps, sophomore leaps, which guys are poised to go up, which guys are trending down. And when we had that conversation, yours truly had said, I think that Bo Nix is going to have a good year this year. I think that last year was not a fluke. I think that they're going back to the playoffs this year. I even said that they're going to win the AFC West. Now that's far from having been decided yet. Fair warning. But they've got some tough games coming up, particularly against the LA Chargers, they're looking like the team that might supplant the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, I don't think starting 1-1 with some turnover problems means the season is over. Look, if it wasn't for that penalty on the field goal, they're 2-0, and they beat that red hot Colts team. And we're talking about how red hot the Broncos are. So we'll cool the Jets on the criticism in a whopping 2 games of action, but they struggled to beat the Titans, and the Titans are just an awful team. So if they keep on turning over the ball, they are not going to go far.
All right, well, moving on, the Philadelphia Eagles are regressing in the passing game. Your thoughts?
Regressing. Look, Philadelphia is a run-first team. Everybody knows that. Yeah. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts also with his legs, the tush-push. But for this one, I'm going to say it's real. Also, remember, new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore's down in New Orleans these days. New offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. The Eagles are 31st out of 32 teams in the league in passing. I think that's fair to say. You don't have a good passing game through the first 2 weeks. Jalen Hurts is averaging a paltry 5.6 yards an attempt. The Eagles have 0 passing touchdowns going into week 3. Look at wide receiver A.J. Brown. He only has 6 catches for 35 yards. A.J. Brown's one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. His previous 3 seasons have all been over 1,000 yards. 2 of them were over 1,400 yards. His current pace right now is under 300 yards for the season. Now, by the way, I don't think that that's going to last for 50 more weeks. I think A.J. Brown's going to get going. Yeah. With that said, it's one thing to struggle against Kansas City on the road in Arrowhead, but they also struggled just as much in week 1 against Dallas in their Super Bowl banner unveiling in week 1. And that same Dallas defense then gave up 450 yards and 3 touchdowns to Russell Wilson. I think they got to figure out the passing game.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson's, he's way down the line on his career, and
except for last week.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. But staying with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, I feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like the whole passing game under Jalen Hurts has always been something that people would talk about in a negative sense. It's always about the running game and how it's supposed to be like a play action type of thing. So this isn't, at least to me, it doesn't seem that surprising that they're kind of low in the passing game, because they're kind of really focused, like you were saying, more on giving the ball to Saquon Barkley, having Jalen Hurts go out and do what he does. So yeah, it's not surprising at all that the 31st, but they're still the Super Bowl champs, the defending Super Bowl champs. So I think they'll be fine. I think they're going to be okay. The next one, Baker Mayfield. This one, when I saw that, I was like, you got to be joking. Is a top 10 quarterback.
Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback. I'm going to say, chat, this is real. Asterisk, depending on the week. All right? Stay with me on this one. Yeah. Stay with me. I know that sounds nuts, but stay with me. Total yards per attempt, longest play, all of those metrics are near the bottom of the league. I give it to you. But he's tied for 3rd in touchdowns with 5. Importantly, no interceptions. Okay. If you're going by QBR, which is taking a lot more of those analytics into play, including plays with his legs, he's actually 9th right now. And speaking of using his legs, he's got 72 yards rushing through 2 weeks. He's the team's second leading rusher. And by the way, those Tampa Bay Buccaneers have faced the number 2 and number 7 total defenses that he put those stats up on. And you know what? They're 2-0. They're 2-0. Next up, they have the New York Jets, who are currently the 30th team in total defense. So if they run up the stats this week, then I'm going to say, 3-0, big win this week. That makes Baker Mayfield a top 10 quarterback.
I was trying to think and look for things to be like, I can't believe you would say Baker Mayfield. But you know what? Your argument there sounds pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I agree with you there. I think Baker Mayfield, he's found his home in Tampa Bay. I know he was with Cleveland. He was with Carolina. And did you remember he used to play for the Los Angeles Rams for 5 games? Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Did you remember that?
Yeah.
Then he went to Tampa Bay, and he looks just like this is the quarterback that Cleveland wanted him to be. But he's found his home in Tampa Bay, so good for Baker. I hope he keeps on going, doing good things over there. Now, I probably should have kept this next topic with the one before this one, but whatever. That's my bad. The tide is turning against the tush push.
Okay. I was a little bit bothered by all the media hysterical reactions this week. I'm going to call that this is real, as in really manufactured. Let me give you a few quotes. ESPN's Mike Green, he called it, quote, an abomination. An abomination, really? Shane. His co-host Schrager said, quote, it's not how we want to watch football. Who's we? Who's he talking about?
Peter Schrager.
He also went on to claim that the NFL wanted to nix it this last offseason, but it just didn't have the votes, couldn't get it through the competition committee. Well, if it didn't have the votes, then maybe they didn't want to get rid of it. I mean, excuse me. There have been, I counted them, there was over a dozen feature articles, videos, clips, and pregame reports thinking Monday night, Thursday night football this week that painted it as a violent, injury-ridden play, and that it's apparently disliked by both players and coaches alike. Now, a lot has been made about the fact that obviously the Philadelphia Eagles benefit from the tush push being a legal play. That look, any team in the NFL is more than welcome to attempt the tush push, and league-wide, it still has well above a 50% completion rate or success rate, particularly on fourth down. But the Eagles are completing it well over 90%, which is obviously far, far above the curve. I kind of liken it to if there was a team that decided every single play they were going to go 5 wide receiver shotgun spread. No blocker in the backfield. We're going to need a quarterback who can roll out of the pocket and throw off his foot. And this guy is throwing for like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns a game. Now, maybe he throws some picks. Maybe they don't win every week. But he's absolutely eviscerating the record books. Are they going to ban 5 receiver spread? Is that what they're going to do because that team's doing it too much? No, I don't think so. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I think there's been a lot of rules that have been created over the last 10, 20 years that have benefited offenses. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't create a rule. That's for the league to do. They just took the rules as written and came up with a good play. So I think that all of the anti-tush push is to try to push fan sentiment against it to get some of the organizations that were holdouts to go in on next offseason's votes. I think that's all hogwash. God forbid, if you can't beat them, join them. It's a copycat league. Isn't that what we always hear?
I want to add a couple things to this. Now, while you were talking there, I looked up, have there been any injuries during a tush push play? Now, this is from AI, so take that with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to go 100% with this, but it says, yes, there have been injuries reported from the tush push play, notably 2 New York Giants players. Apparently no Eagles players have been injured. It's just the Giants. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Crimea River. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm sure the Giants are not fans of the tush push. Now, there have been similar plays where teams have used the Wildcat. That was around for a little while. Then that phased out. Remember when quarterbacks used to run around? Colin Kaepernick, he used to
the
run
RPO.
Yes, the RPO. Thank you. That was around for a while. Then that phased out. It's just the tush push is just the offense of everybody hates the tush push, except for the Eagles. Everybody hates it. But like you said, Peter Schrager, everybody hates it, but then you get the votes. So you're wrong on that one, I guess. So sorry, Mr. Schrager, but maybe next time. Maybe next time. Now, moving on to the next big topics here. Week 3 Q&A, Alan.
All right.
Now, the first one here, which 0-2 teams, if any, will still make the playoffs? Now, I'll go ahead and list the 0-2 teams here. So in the AFC, we have the Jets, Dolphins, Browns, Texans, Titans, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
Yeah. And in the NFC,
I just get goosebumps hearing that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. And then the NFC, the Giants, Bears, Saints, and the Panthers. Now, of those teams that I just mentioned, which one do you think has the best chance of making the playoffs?
All right. I'll tell you what, of that list, look, it's no big surprise. I think that the team with the best chance is the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Right. As a quick little stat here, ever since the 1970 merger, only 10% of teams that started 0-2 still made the playoffs. And with the Chiefs, I have a little equation for you. We've said it on this program before. Reed plus Mahomes equals contenders. I'm pretty sure Andy Reid is still the coach of that team. I'm pretty sure Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback of that team. Look, the Chargers in Brazil was week 1, right? That was the kickoff game. That was the Friday night game on YouTube. That just feels weird to say. And then they hosted the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. Look, to be fair, that's a tough 0-2. They may have had the hardest opening 2-week schedule in the NFL. So it's not the total end of the world that they're 0-2. But the biggest issues that the Chiefs have are lack of splash plays on offense. They're not able to stretch the field as much, which is just wild to even say for the Chiefs. But listen, they're getting back wide receiver Rashee Rice off of suspension here soon, and also Xavier Worthy. He started the season week 1, and remember that first down play where they're running or early progress play where they're running crossing routes, and Xavier runs into Travis Kelce and dislocates his shoulder. He's out for the game. So for all intents and purposes, Xavier Worthy basically hasn't played this season because he basically never got to run around. Getting both of those guys back is going to make a huge difference. Also, keep in mind, no team has ever gone 0-3 and made it back to the Super Bowl. And that's where the Chiefs are. They were Super Bowl losers last year. If they go 0-3, they can probably kiss the Super Bowl goodbye. But, perfect timing for the Chiefs, desperate for a win. They're at the New York Football Giants this week. So unless Russell Wilson's got another 450 and 3 touchdowns, this is the perfect week for them to make some tweaks. This game couldn't come at a better time. So I expect them to get on the board this week.
It's a good case for the Chiefs. I'll make the case for the Houston Texans, right? Now, just looking at the score. This is not whole picture, but the Texans scored 9 points to Rams 14. Close. Pretty close.
Okay.
They lost by 1 point to the Buccaneers. Those are 2 really good teams. The Texans, they fought their heart out against them, right? Great teams. Now with the Rams, they fumbled in the red zone right when they were going to win get that winning drive. Didn't happen. Got a fumble. That's unfortunate. Now, another thing, too, is that their defense is only giving up 16.5 points per game. That's pretty good. Of course, their offense has to step up. That's the main thing with them. Their defense is amazing. It's just CJ Stroud needs to I don't know what's going on with him, but he needs to find that motor. He needs to find what was going on. He was so good earlier on in his career. He needs to get back to that. And then if that happens, the Texans are rolling, and they're in a pretty easy division. I mean, you got the Colts there. They're running. They're doing really well right now. But they also have the Titans and the Jaguars, who are just they're nothing. So it's just going to be between those two. So if that happens, if they can win the next few games, and they're against the Jaguars and the Titans these next 2 games, those should be 2 easy wins. Should being the key word there. But if those go well for them, I think Texans will be okay. And I think that'd be all right for them.
Yeah, look, they're 2 plays away from being 2-0. Yeah, look, the Chiefs would love to be 2 plays away from being 2-0 at this point, but they're more than 2 plays away. I do think the Chiefs have a better chance. I do think the Chiefs have a better chance despite being in a competitive division. Yeah. Dare Agumbawale's fumble in the red zone week 1. Yes, that guy. Look, they had Baker Mayfield on a 4th and 10. And an unblocked a linebacker, Henry To'o, goes through the interior. If he even slows Baker down, it's game over. They kneel out the clock. What happens? Of course, Baker Mayfield does he slowly but surely scrambles down the middle of the field for a first down. Jags and then Titans are the next 2 games. If they're 2-2 by the end of week 4, they're right in the thick of it. But to be honest, I think if they're 1-3 or worse, Colts do look pretty good. Not gonna lie.
That's a good point. So next one here, we'll go with the 2-0 teams. Now, which 2-0 teams will still miss the playoffs? That's the opposite here. So I'll go ahead and name the 2-0 teams here. in the AFC, you have the Buffalo Bills, Bengals,
Mhm.
Colts, and Chargers. In the NFC,
Okay.
Eagles, Packers, Buccaneers, 49ers, Cardinals, and Rams. Which one of those teams
Mhm.
do you think has the best chance of missing the playoffs?
I'm gonna drop down because this is my favorite pick of the week. I'm gonna go with the NFC West pick'em. And because at least one of the 49ers, Cards, Rams are not going to make the playoffs. And by the way, not only am I saying this division's not sending 3 teams to the playoffs, we're not even counting the Seahawks because they're 1-1, and they're a decent team. All right, we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. Their 2 wins are the Saints and Panthers. Let's just stop the bus on that one. They beat the Saints and Panthers. The rest of their schedule is going to be a teensy bit harder than that, including their divisional games. Yeah. The Rams, oh my God, listen to the Rams' next 4 games. At Eagles, Colts, 49ers, at Ravens.
Oh,
that's a tough 4-game stretch right there.
That sounds good to me.
Even if their one win is against divisional rival 49ers, they're still 1-3 over their next 4. That's a hell of a tough schedule. And speaking of who doesn't have a tough schedule, it's your very own San Francisco 49ers. One of their toughest games of the whole year is at Seattle, and they already won. Of course, they lost all of their starters on offense to do it.
Yeah.
But one of those teams is not going to the playoffs.
You know, speaking of the 49ers, I wanted to go ahead and talk about this little tidbit here that is pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. In 2004, a season for the 49ers, they were 2-14. The only 2 wins they got in that whole season were against the Arizona Cardinals, both times. The crazy thing, though, the score was 31-28 in overtime for both games. So they won twice against the Arizona Cardinals, 31-28 in overtime, both times. That's crazy.
That right there would have been a fantastic Affleck trivia question.
Oh, man, yeah.
The 2004 49ers only had 2 victories. Who were they against, and what was the final score? That would have been fantastic. Yeah. Let me give you this little tidbit, too. Since the 1970 merger, 36% of teams, so over a third of the teams that started 2-0, still missed the playoffs. It's a long season, ladies and gentlemen. A lot can happen in the next 14 to 15 weeks, depending on what year you're looking at. I want to give a shout out to our friend Gibbs over there in chat. Gibbs's pick was the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, I'll have you know, our other pick is the case against the Cincinnati Bengals. Breaking news: Joe Burrow is going to be out for 3 months. Shane.
Damn.
Now, to be fair, they already beat the Jacksonville Jaguars with Jake Browning throwing 3 interceptions. So it's not that all is lost. If you remember the name Jake Browning, you might recall just a couple of seasons ago in 2023, he played the last 7 games of that year. He completed 71.5% of his passes for 1,868 yards and 11 touchdowns, and they went 4-3. That's not bad, especially for a backup, but they missed the playoffs that year. And let me tell you their upcoming schedule. At Vikings, one of the best defenses in the NFL, at Broncos, coming off of a heartbreaker, and then they're playing the Lions, and then they're at the Green Bay Packers. Shane, did I mention Burrow's out for 3 months?
That's not good. That's going to be what, December? He comes back.
He's definitely coming back this season, but we're at 3 months. You're already kind of in that area of, if they lose their next 10 games, why bother having him rush back, right? You might as well take your time. It's like, remember Aaron Rodgers' first year with the Jets where he tears the Achilles week 1? And there was like a 9-week, 10-week stretch where they were saying if they could just be within a couple of games of wild card contention, then Aaron Rodgers might come back. Well, as the weeks wore on, I think it was pretty clear that the Jets were not a playoff team with or without Rodgers. But when it was clear that they weren't, there was really no point in Rodgers rushing rehab. I kind of have a feeling that that's where the Bengals are going to be in those 12-ish weeks.
Yeah, and the Bengals schedule looks kind of brutal. They have the Vikings up next, Broncos, Lions, Packers. That's just the next 4 games. That's going to be a pretty tough playing there. So Jake Brown he's got some big shoes to fill going to play against those teams. Now, the next topic here, just recently, the 2026 Hall of Fame class contenders was announced.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, who do you think is going to be in? So I'll just tell you right now, and you probably don't know who's going to be. Drew Brees is in there.
Okay.
That's a first
ballot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like not even a question.
Yes.
Of all of them, he's probably 100% the guy that's going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Fitzgerald, you can make a strong case. He's also first ballot. All with the Arizona Cardinals, just consistent all the time. Great numbers. Larry Fitzgerald, definitely going to be in there. Now, some other names on here, and I'll just quickly go off that, and you can kind of give a little bit about each one. Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, here's the thing about this whole list.
Yeah.
We have an old saying from the old sports ball show that there's the Hall of Fame and then there's the Hall of Really Good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see lists of potential inductees and you think there's a lot of really good players on that list. I remember fondly watching them play for years. These are guys that were coming up like in our youth when we were growing up as football fans. But they were never really considered like the most elite at their position in their own era. And if they weren't even the best in their own era, are they one of the best all time? So Phillip Rivers, we'll kind of compare him to Drew Brees since we sort of skipped over that. Drew Brees had 80,358 yards and 571 touchdowns. That's top 2 all time, by the way, in both categories. He was also the accuracy king. Did you know that Drew Brees was the first quarterback in NFL history to top 70% completion rate for a season? And then he turned around and did it 5 times in his career. 13 Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl, and an MVP, 2 Offensive Player of the Years across 20 seasons. And by the way, he did most of that with the New Orleans Saints, who had been largely irrelevant, and he took them to perennial contenders. Now, he played in the same era as Phillip Rivers. 63,000 plus yards.
Yeah.
Great. 421 touchdowns. Really good. He was 5-7 in the playoffs.
Ouch.
Not so good.
Yeah.
No rings, 0 MVPs, 0 first team All Pros. He never finished any season in the top 3 in his career. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because you might have heard of some of the other people that he played against, such as Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Look, when you're up against that level of competition, if you're even in the conversation, you're a really, really good quarterback. But you belong in the Hall of Really Good, not the Hall of Fame.
The next one on the list is Jason Witten, who is a tight end. And he was a great tight end. 1,228 receptions, over 13,000 yards. That's second among tight ends, both receptions and yards. That's pretty good for a tight end. And he also had 74 touchdowns. Pretty good. 11 Pro Bowls, 2 first team All-Pro, 4 second team All-Pro. And he played in 16 seasons, 271 games, and he only missed 1 due to injury. So that shows you he's consistent. He has longevity, so not injury prone. We got that going for him. Yeah.
No. Incredible professional, one of the faces of the Cowboys over 15 of those 16 seasons thereabouts. I put Jason Witten as a guy who is definitely going to the Hall of Fame. Do I know for 100% certainty he will be first ballot? No. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Tight ends usually have a tall hill to climb, just like wide receivers do. But he definitely will be in the Hall of Fame eventually.
Yeah, and the next name is Frank Gore, running back.
Mhm.
16,000 rushing yards even. That's third all time behind
Mhm.
Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton.
Yeah.
And he has 19,000 scrimmage yards plus 99 touchdowns, 9 1,000-yard seasons across 16 years. He had 5 Pro Bowls and second team All-Pro. 241 games played at running back. For a running back, that's insane. Running backs get destroyed. Their bodies break down. We see it with Christian McCaffrey. He can't stay on the field consistently anymore. Frank Gore, what a beast. As a 49er fan, love the guy. He played for other teams after the 49ers, but you know what? He will be a 49er legend for life. So I got to say that. I got to put my piece in there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, Frank Gore. I don't know if he'll be first ballot, but definitely I think he should be in there probably in the second or third time, I think.
Yeah, I rate him the same way. I think he will get in. I just don't know if he'll be first ballot. You know, the biggest thing against him is sort of the same deal that in his own era, he was rarely considered to be like top 1, 2, 3 running back in the league.
Yeah.
But this guy was still productive well into his mid-30s. Nobody does that at the running back position in the National Football League. The fact that he's even on the list next with Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and then Frank Gore. This will be an interesting trivia question a few more years down the road when younger fans maybe don't remember Frank Gore because they think, well, I don't remember some guy named Frank Gore winning a bunch of Super Bowls, so he must have been irrelevant. Well, my friend, he's third all time in the NFL in rushing. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And I could see that trivia question in my head. Who's number 3? I don't know. Eric Dickerson? Wrong. Not Eric Dickerson. Yeah. Sorry. So
what did Eric Dickerson ever do to you? I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. That's just the first thing that popped in my head.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, Eric, if you're watching this for some reason. Next name, Julian Edelman. Look, second all-time postseason catches and Super Bowl MVP. We've seen some of the amazing catches that he's done at the Super Bowl. That's really where he shined the most, is the Super Bowl. The regular season, 620 catches, just over 6,800 yards and 36 touchdowns. You know, that's okay. But he was just kind of just there. But again, the Super Bowl, that's where he shined. And that might push him in just because he had those moments in the big game. But he's not going to be first ballot. Second ballot, I don't think so. Third, maybe however other times that they can actually put him in. But yeah, it's going to be really hard for him to get in.
All right. Hate to burst the bubble for Edelman fans. Those aren't okay numbers, Shane. Those are pedestrian numbers compared to NFL Hall of Fame wide receivers.
I was trying to be nice.
0 Pro Bowls, 0 All-Pro selections. He never led the league in any receiving category in any season. We'll give him the same treatment we gave Phillip Rivers. Look, second all-time postseason catches and Super Bowl MVP. That's incredible. You can't take that away from him. Let's compare that to Larry Fitzgerald. You know, these are 2 wide receivers in the same class, right? So let's talk about Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he only finished second all-time in receiving with 17,492 yards. That's 11. My God, that's 11,000 more yards than Julian Edelman. 1,432 receptions. Again, more than double. And he was 6th in touchdowns with 121. That's almost quadruple, my friend, what Julian Edelman had. 11 Pro Bowls to 0. First team All-Pro, 9 1,000-yard seasons, including between the ages of 33 and 35. Sounds like our friend Frank Gore you were just talking about there. Yeah. This guy almost carried, I feel bad for our younger fans, this guy almost carried the Arizona Cardinals to the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? In that 4-game stretch in the playoffs, he had 546 yards and 7 touchdowns. My goodness. By the way, that's nearly 2 decades of professionalism, leadership, and durability, like you mentioned with Winton. 263 games played at wide receiver position into his late 30s. Julian Edelman ain't going into the same hall as that guy.
Man, I was trying to be nice, but you know what? You got me. Good one.
You
Man.
just be cool with the Hall of really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Larry Fitzgerald made well, actually, that's not true. He didn't make the touchdown at the end of the whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. Our next person on here is Marquise Pouncey. He's a center. Now, centers, it's going to be hard for a center to get in. There's only 10 so far. So
surprising.
Yeah. He made 9 Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros. So that's really, really good for a center. And he was like an immediate, right when he got into the offensive line for the Steelers, it was just immediate, just boom. You could do whatever you want with that offensive line. So Marquise Pouncey, congratulations, but I don't think you're going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You might get in, but not first ballot.
So this is such a tough one because the Hall of Fame judges different positions differently. It's just how it is. Yeah. Wide receivers, running backs, those tend to be notoriously hard to get in because there's so many in. So if you're not transforming the game in a way that those guys didn't, or at least approaching the level of productivity of like all-time great, you tend to get overshadowed. And there tends to be so many guys all trying to get in at the same time. Center's the same way. You would think center, being one of the most important positions that they touch, as they say, they touch the football on every play, right? Yeah. The center does. Not even the quarterback touches the ball on every play. And for there only be 10 centers in, it makes it difficult. With that said, this is a guy, you mentioned it, he anchored the Steelers offensive line for years, a very physical trenches type of football, and he made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Yeah. I think that Marquise Pouncey gets into the Hall of Fame. I think he's the 11th center in. Is he going to get in this year? I don't know. I would vote for him. I would vote for him to go in. Does he make it this year? I don't know, but I think he gets in eventually.
Next player, LaShawn McCoy, running back, 11,102 rushing yards and 14,000 scrimmage yards for 89 touchdowns. It's pretty good, but we talked about Frank Gore and Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton. Is that transformative? I don't think so. No MVPs and 2 first-team All-Pros. And speaking of longevity, once he hit around the age of 29, that's when time came knocking and said, LaShawn McCoy, sorry, but just not going to be your time anymore. And if I were to give my opinion on whether he's going to get in the Hall of Fame, I'm going to say no.
So we're back to the Hall of Really Good, right? It's a very similar argument with Phillip Rivers. LaShawn McCoy in his prime was an excellent back. Both coming out of the backfield, catching passes, and being able to tote the rock 20, 25 times a game and run off tackle. But you compare him to guys like, remember Fred Taylor? Fred Taylor played for the Jags. He was very similar to Fred Taylor, and Fred Taylor's not in the Hall of Fame, and he has no chance to make the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that's just something to keep in mind. He's got 2 Super Bowls, and that's fantastic. Again, some players tend to get judged based on postseason success, particularly quarterbacks. Running backs, maybe not as much, but he does have the 2 Super Bowls. But to be fair, he was practically a non-factor in those 2 Super Bowl runs because he was taking up a roster spot that a younger guy could fill. And again, it's in your own era. Phillip Rivers was outshined by all those names we mentioned earlier: Brady, Manning, Breeze, Roethlisberger. LaShawn McCoy really was overshadowed by both Adrian Peterson and Marshawn Lynch. Yeah. So again, if you're only 3rd or 4th fiddle in your own era, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. And next player, Greg Olsen, another tight end, 742 catches for 8,683 yards and 60 touchdowns. He never won any awards and was never the leader in catches, yards, and touchdowns. And he only made 3 Pro Bowls. So, it's okay. He had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons through 2014 and 2016. Now, he had to live through Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates, who were just monstrous players for their respective careers. And so Greg Olsen, he just had to live during that time. And I'm going to go and say not first ballot, maybe third or fourth time for eligible. But other than that, I don't think he's going to go in.
No chance. He goes on the same list as Julian Edelman. Greg Olsen's never going to the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's tough for tight ends to make it. When you think of people like an Antonio Gates, that's a first ballot Hall of Famer. When you think of a Tony Gonzalez, that's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And also he benefits from the fact that he got into the Hall before an Antonio Gates and before Jason Witten was eligible, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
If Tony Gonzalez was playing today, it would be harder than it was then. If Jason Witten even has to wait a year or two to get in, there is a 0% chance Greg Olsen gets in. Tony Gonzalez had 15,000 yards.
Yeah.
He had 15,000 yards receiving. Antonio Gates had 116 touchdowns. That's near. Both of those are good for near double what Greg Olsen had. And also, of course, we'll remember there was the one trip to the Super Bowl Carolina Panthers had. What was that, 2015, where they ran into the brick wall that was the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning's last year. Yes. And Greg Olsen was sadly not a factor in that run. So, it's going to be a big fat haul of very good.
Next is Des Bryant, wide receiver, 531 catches for 7,506 yards and 75 touchdowns. Now, he made 3 Pro Bowls and was in 1 first-team All-Pro, but just like you said with Greg Olsen, I don't see any chance Des Bryant makes it in. I mean, was it a catch or was it not? I don't know. You decide.
It was. I mean, I'm not biased as a Cowboys fan, but everyone knows it was a catch. I can't believe anyone would even jokingly try to have that debate. It was clearly a catch. With that said, the thing that hurts Des Bryant is twofold. One, he's a wide receiver, and you're going up against Hall of Fame level wide receiver stats that are just phenomenal through the roof.
Yeah.
And he had such a short peak.
Yeah.
His peak really only lasted 5 seasons. Look, I have fond memories of those Romo, Witten, Des Bryant years. That was a hot offense right there, my friend.
That's good.
But it was short-lived. So was Romo's. So was Des Bryant's. Jason Witten had a lot more longevity than either of those guys, and that was while playing a more physical position. And yet he did. The yards and touchdowns that he had over that 5 seasons are Hall of Fame worthy, but you just can't retire. You can't fall off the way he did, and you can't have a peak of 5 years and make the NFL Hall of Fame. I think at any position. The only exception I give to that is a guy who did in fact make the Hall of Fame. That's Kurt Warner, quarterback of the Rams, and then those Cardinals that year that we were discussing earlier with Larry Fitzgerald. He is one of the few guys that you ever see who kind of starts his career late, peaks for a brief period of time, and then has one resurgent kind of semi-retiree season, and he's able to make the Hall on those numbers. And he was also a Super Bowl winner. We all know the Cowboys have always struggled in the postseason, post-dynasty years. So as much as I hate to say it, look, in his peak, anyone would want Des Bryant on their team. That's not good enough. He's the Hall of very good.
And the last main one here, Steven Gostkowski, kicker, just over 87% field goal made and 2,006 points, along with 4 Pro Bowls and 2 first-team All-Pros. Not bad, but over 14 years. That was how long he was in, about 14 years. And look, he kicked for the New England Patriots. And you know who else also kicked for the New England Patriots? Adam Vinatieri. He's in. Oh, no, excuse me. He's not in. And if Adam Vinatieri is not in, Steven's going to have an even tougher time. And I don't even think he's going to make it in. Adam will. Steven won't.
I think that there's a possibility that he gets in eventually, but only if Hall voters change their attitude on kickers. Look, kickers went decades with practically nobody getting into the Hall of Fame. You had Morton Anderson. You get Morton Anderson in the Hall of Fame, who played until he was 120 years old. Here's the funny thing about a guy like Steven Gostkowski. Those stats you mentioned are phenomenal. Those are all-timer stats, including the Pro Bowls and all. He's a kicker. These are all-timer stats. All of his metrics are actually higher than Vinatieri's. But you know what the problem with that is that new age kickers have raised the bar.
Yeah.
You think of guys who are in the league right now. You think of Cameron Dicker. You think of Cam Little with the Jaguars. You think of Brandon Aubrey with the Cowboys. You think of the late great our latest handsy guy out of the Ravens. I'm sorry,
Justin
my mind
Tucker.
just went blank. Justin Tucker. Those guys make last generation's kickers look mediocre.
Yeah.
But so as you already pointed out, this was kind of my honorable mention pick. Do I think Steven Gostkowski was a good enough kicker to be honored as a kicker in the Hall of Fame? Yes. But in a Hall of Fame that is yet to include Adam Vinatieri, he ain't going in.
Well, we can move on from that because some of the other names on here, I don't think have any chance of getting in. Maybe Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith has a really good chance of getting in the Hall of Fame for sure. We'll move on from that. We'll go on to your picks. So for your picks, we have the Los Angeles Rams at Philadelphia Eagles -3.5.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Eagles -3.5. I think the Eagles win, but I don't think they cover. If you've looked at the first 2 weeks of the season for Eagles, we talked about it earlier. They haven't been able to throw the ball. They've been leaning a lot on Saquon Barkley and being able to move the chains with Jalen Hurts and the tush push. They're going to want to challenge the Rams downfield. They're going to want to do that.
Yeah.
And they've had success in previous meetings on the ground against the Rams. But Matthew Stafford looks pretty good. His rapport right now with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams has been pretty strong. So I think the Eagles win, but I don't think they cover.
Yeah, and it's right now the Eagles are 31st in passing. The Rams passing defense is pretty damn good. So have fun trying to pass against the Rams this week. Next one, Houston Texans at Jacksonville Jaguars -1.5.
You know what? This is going to be my money line pick of the week. Not only does Jacksonville fail to cover that whopping 1.5 points, I think the Texans win outright. Look, I know they're 0-2. Now it was an ugly 0-2. I think that the Texans get in the win column this week, partly because they need it. They need it really bad. But we just watched Jacksonville go into halftime with the lead at Cincinnati with Joe Burrow out for the game, and his backup turned the ball over 3 times, and the Jaguars lost that game. They lost that game. So I'm going with the Houston Texans on the money line. They win outright.
Hey, did you know that the Jacksonville Jaguars average 389 yards a game? That's fourth. Wow. That's fourth in the league. That's
yeah.
Come on, Jacksonville, let's go. Beat the Texans. Come on. Next one, Denver Broncos at Los Angeles Chargers -2.5.
This is an interesting matchup. Obviously, huge divisional game, implications for the whole rest of the season. Broncos coming off the absolute heartbreaker at the end of the game against Indy. The Chargers actually swept the Broncos last year, so that was one of the dark spots in an otherwise successful rookie campaign for Bo Nix. They could not beat the Fighting Harbaughs. I think the Broncos are really feeling the weight of all of those preseason expectations. I don't know what pundits put those expectations on the Broncos. I don't remember who said that. But I actually think the Chargers cover. I think the Chargers take command of the division this week.
If the Chargers can just continue on with their turnover differential and just take the ball away from the Broncos, smooth sailing. Last one here, Detroit Lions at Baltimore Ravens -4.5.
Baltimore Ravens -4.5 against the Lions. That sounds like a big number. It sounds like it's a big number. It feels like, even though this is an AFC NFC game, so it doesn't necessarily have huge playoff implications, it feels like it's setting the tone for the rest of the season. One of these teams is going to have a losing record after this week. I think the Ravens, I'll tell you what, I think the Ravens are going to bulldoze the Lions. I think that this game is going to be very reminiscent of that week 1 game that the Lions played in Green Bay. I think the Ravens cover that score, and I think they cover it fairly easily. I think the Ravens manhandle the Lions, and the Lions sending off alarms.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a down year for the Lions in general, so I agree with you on there with that one. Alan, we're done. Final thought on everything.
Final thought. I know we're out of time. I want to say this really quick. We had to skip over. Does injured QB equal season over? Which teams with an ailing passer can still compete? I know your 49ers already won a big game without their starter. They're going to have to do it again this week, though. I just saw Brock Purdy out for another week.
Yep.
I'm
glad.
QB controversy in San Francisco. Mac Jones.
No.
Joe Burrow out for 3 months. We already talked about them. JJ McCarthy of the Vikings, 2 to 4 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Bad news for them. They already had to overcome a slow start and a pick 6 from him just to beat the Bears. And then they followed that up with a 6-point clunker on Sunday Night Football. I think the bigger risk for the Vikings is what happens if Carson Wentz pulls a Sam Darnold and he comes out there for the Vikings and lights it up. Last two real quick. Jane Daniels, they did say he's out this week against the Raiders. At least they're playing the Raiders. Marcus Mariota, remember that name? Backup for the Redskins. The last meaningful game he played in was week 7 last year against the Panthers. He only went for 18 of 23 for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns.
What?
I think that's not bad. Justin Fields, he's going to be out again this week with a concussion. Tyrod Taylor is taking over the start against the Buccaneers.
Let's go.
Yikes.
Let's go. Tyrod Taylor's taking that job from Justin Fields. We're calling it right now. Let's go. Final thought for me, like I said it before, and I know you loved it because I said it earlier in the show, Alex Smith, Hall of Famer. Let's go. Bye, everybody.